Let's continue previous video. So we finished this part, understanding dependency injection and first project setup, where we implemented jars necessary to run project in the Spring framework. And now here is the third topic of this video, understanding Spring Bean Factory. So once again, my name is Nebojša Bačanjakula. I'm professor at Singidunum University, Serbia, and this video is not for commercial purposes. This video is intended only for the students of Singidunum University. So, what is a spring? Spring is a container of so-called beans. More precisely, spring behaves as a factory of beans. A similar example, there is a Tomcat. Tomcat is a container of subnets. Tomcat creates subnet objects in order to run applications. And for this purpose, Tomcat reads XML file and determines the order of subnets that need to be instantiated. Spring is in this way very similar to the concept of Tomcat, but Spring is container of beans, not container of subnets. So Spring is a container, and we may have many objects inside a Spring container, and all objects are managed by the Spring container. So all these objects within are managed by this container, and this container handles the creation, then a life cycle of these beans or objects, and it also handles the destruction of these objects. Also, we can have many objects outside this Spring container, but the Spring is not aware of these objects outside this Spring container, so the Spring cannot manage the life cycle, creation and destruction of those objects that are located out of this container. So, when we create an object in Spring, we do not use standard Java notation like object B equals new object or similar. Instead, Spring does this for us, so we don't have to use this standard syntax. So instead of saying new object, we will simply ask the Spring container to create an object for us. And this is example of so-called factory pattern. So Spring uses this factory pattern. So we have an object, and instead of create an instance of that object, we call object factory, and then the factory produces object for us. So if we use a standard core Java technology, then we would just say object B equals new object, and that's it. But in this concept, we asked this object factory to create the new object. Then the object factory creates new object and returns this object to us. So that's how the Spring behave. So we request for an object from the object factory, the factory creates or provides an object to us, and then we have this object. And Spring has something called the Spring Bean Factory. So what does it mean? So object must have a method that calls Spring Bean Factory, and then the Spring Bean Factory will read this Spring XML file and will produce a bean, and then the factory will return this bean or object to us. So Spring uses this XML file. It's Spring XML file. We name it as we wish, like beans XML, application.xml. So this XML file is like a glue. It connects all the components of the Spring framework. And this XML file has a blueprint of an object, like initial value of properties, like constructor, initialization, and so on. So what happens is the following. We want to create an object or a bean, and instead of saying object B equals new object, we call this bean factory and ask this factory, can you please create object with this and this ID for us? Bean factory says yes, it's okay, and then bean factory reads this XML configuration file and reads the blueprint of an object that we requested, and then according to this blueprint, bean factory creates an object or bean, and then finally bean factory returns this object to us. So this is basically how bean factory works or performs by using this factory design pattern. In the next tutorials we will see this in action in Eclipse integrated development environment. So see you soon in next videos.